A very good morning to all. Today we are moving on to the next topic, that is about joints. In the last class we discussed about the parts of human skeleton. I hope the class was clear to you. Moving to today's topic, that is about joints. So have you all heard of the term joints? So what are joints? Point of contact between two bonds. That is a joint. The area in which two or more bones meet. That is called the joint. We all are able to move our body, right? We can bend our body. Even we can stretch the different parts of our body, right? So how is that possible? That is because of the joints in the body. Most of the joints are movable that allow the bones to move. So what are joints? The point of contact between two bonds. The area in which two or more bonds meet. That is called the joint. The movement of toes, the movement of our elbow, the movement of our knees, all these movements are due to the movable joints. Joints can be movable joints, that is freely movable joints, which we can move in different direction. Then joints can be partially movable joints that allow limited movement. Then immovable joints which does not allow any movement. They are immovable. I hope you all remember what we have discussed in the first class, that is about skull. So skull is made of 8 cranial bones and these cranial bonds are attached together by sutures, and sutures are immovable joints, which means they do not move. So these are the different joints, that is movable joints which allow free movement, then partially movable joints and immovable joints. Next is movable joints in the human body. Here you can see the picture of the knee joint. So the movement of our knee is due to the movable joint. So while we walk or run, the bones rub against each other and they cause tremendous amount of pain. So to prevent that, we have a fluid that is present in the joint or in between two bones, and that fluid is called as the synovial fluid. So when we walk or when we run, the bones rub against each other and it can cause tremendous pain, and to prevent that, we have a fluid that is present between two bonds, that is the synovial fluid. Then you all know about cartilage. So cartilage is the tissue that is present in the body. So it covers the surface of the bone at the joint. So the cartilage and the synovial fluid, it helps in the free movement of bones and it reduces the friction between two bonds. Due to the progressing of age, what happens is the synovial fluid starts to decrease. As a result of it, there is a gradual decrease in the cartilage thickness. So usually old people will have knee problem, that is due to the damage in cartilage. Now let's discuss about the different movable joints. The first one is ball and socket joint. Here you can see the shoulder joint and the hip joint. So the shoulder joint and the hip joint has ball and socket joint. If you closely observe this picture, that is this shoulder joint, you can see the shoulder joint, that is a ball-like structure, and here you can see a socket-like structure, and this ball-like structure fits into this socket-like structure and it allows free movement. So we can move the parts of our body in different direction. Coming to the next one, that is the hip joint. So the hip joint also has the ball and socket joint. So again here you can see the two sockets and the two bonds gets fit into this socket and allows free movement. So that is about the ball and socket joint. So the shoulder joint and the hip joint has ball and socket joint that allows free movement. The next one is the hinge joint. Hinge joint is also a type of movable joint and it allows movement only in one direction. Let's take the example of our elbow. So we can move our elbow back and forth. That is, we can move our elbow only in one direction, that is back and forth. So our elbow has hinge joint. What about our knee? We can move our knee back and forth. We can move only in one direction and our knee has hinge joint. And what about our fingers? So our fingers, toes, they have hinge joint that allow movement only in one direction. We can move our fingers back and forth. We can move our toes back and forth. So our fingers and toes have hinge joint. So what is this hinge? So have you heard of the term hinge? So the hinge is what attaches the door to the wall and makes it work. So here you can see the hinge. It attaches the door to the wall and makes it work. So that is about the hinge joint. This is also a type of joint that allows movement only in one direction. The next type of joint, that is the pivotal joint. So pivotal joint is also a type of movable joint. The movement of our neck is due to the pivotal joint. The pivotal joint is present between the first vertebrae and the skull. So we can move our neck from one side to the other. We can move our head forward and backward. So when we move our head from one side to the other, the movement is restricted, right? So we can move from one side to the other and after that, the movement is restricted. It is a partially movable joint which allows limited movement. So the movement of our neck is due to the pivotal joint. And pivotal joint is a partially movable joint that allows limited movement. The next one is the gliding joints. Our wrist. Our wrist has gliding joints. That is, we can move our wrist sideways and we can move our wrist back and forth. So, the gliding joints have bones that glide or move against each other and allow movement. Then what about our ankle? Our ankle has gliding joints where the bones slide against each other that allows movement. We can move our ankle sideways as well as back and forth. Here the bones slide against each other or they move against each other and they allow movement. That is about the gliding joints, which is another type of movable joint. So here you can see the movable joints in the human body. Here you can see the pivotal joint, that is between the head and the neck. Here you can see the shoulder. The shoulder has ball and socket joint. Then this is the elbow and the elbow has hinge joint that allows movement only in one direction. Then our wrist, it has gliding joint. Then fingers, it has hinge joints that allow movement in one direction. Then our hip, it has ball and socket joint. Then our knees, it has hinge joint. Then ankle, it has gliding joint. So these are the movable joints in the human body. So I hope this class was clear to you. We discussed about joints, the area in which two or more bones meet. That is called the joint. And we discussed about the different movable joints. The first one, we discussed about the ball and socket joint. Then we discussed about the hinge joint. Then we discussed about the pivotal joint. And then we discussed about the gliding joint. So these are the movable joints in our body. So I hope this class was clear to you. We'll meet in the next class and discuss a new topic. Till then, thank you.